The following video is intended for mature audiences only. Porn. What started back in the 1900s as illegal movies that were either sold under the counter or seen in private movie clubs you had to be a member in, became a bigger thing as time went on. But by that time, the mafia was using the industry as a front for other means of activity, if you catch my drift. But nonetheless, the porn industry created a lot of famous people back then. People such as John Holmes, Ron Jeremy, Kay Parker, Juliet Anderson, Seika, Buffy Davis, and a slew of many that would follow into their footsteps. Not only did the porn industry bring us many classic porn stars, they also created many classic porn films as well, like the one we're going to be talking about today. Now this film that we're talking about, well, if I had to rank it in its famousness, I would say it's about as famous as Rudolph. And that film is none other than the 1978 classic, Debbie Does Dallas, starring the one-time Bambi Woods. But why was such a video so famous? Well, let's break it down. The story begins with the idea itself. While working on a script called Teen Services, Jim Clark encountered a woman that told him her story about trying out for the Dallas cheerleading squad. So inspired by the girl's story, he decided to scrap the old version and go with it instead. The plot was very simple and shot all up in New York, and it went like this. The main character, named Debbie Benton, wants to try out for the Texas Cowboy cheerleading squad, but she doesn't have the money to travel. So her fellow cheerleader friends decide to not only go with her, but to help her raise money. So they put out an ad calling themselves Teen Services, paying homage to the original script, where at first they went around looking for any type of work in order to make money. But it wasn't until Debbie's boss, Mr. Greenfield, played by Arbala, offered her up to $40 to play with her tits. Once she showed her friends how she was making the money, all of them started holding themselves out. Now I know some of y'all going to get offended because I said a woman to hold herself out, but yo, I'm just keeping it 100, man. So by the end of the movie, Debbie's boss ends up paying for her whole entire trip, but only on one condition: if she lets him live out his fantasy of being the football player that bangs the head cheerleader. So she lets him do it. And one of the scenes was like, I don't consider it the best, but it's also not the worst. And I'll explain my reasons why later on. End of story. Now that they had their script, it was time to get their cast. And the biggest question was, who were they going to get to play Debbie Benton? Eventually, they chose Bambi Woods. Mainly because she had that bubbly, innocent girl next door look that they were looking for. And according to a rare interview that she gave back then when she was dancing after a former melody, this was true because this was her very first porn movie ever. Also in that interview, she went on to explain why she ended up doing the movie in the first place.
Was Debbie Does Dallas your first adult film?
Yes, it was.
Well, how does a beautiful young woman get into movies? There may be quite a few beautiful young women out there who would be curious to know.
Well, it's very funny how I got into it. I owed somebody money, a girlfriend of mine who had done porno movies before. And she said, listen, you owe me the money, so why don't you just go over and see about doing this film? So I went, and I didn't pay her back after I did the film.
Shame on you.
So she brought me here. she brought me to the melody.
Joined up with other talents such as Misty Winters, Arcadia Lake, Arbala, and Herschel Savage, they went on to create the film Debbie Does Dallas. This is where the controversies kick in. One of the controversies was being some of the places that they filmed in. A lot of these places they didn't have permission to do so they did them illegally and risked being caught. For instance, the library scene where Herschel Savage is getting sucked off by Mary Townsend. Supposedly, that was done illegally at the Pratt Institute Library in Brooklyn. Another controversy, and this may be one of the main ones, came with the movie's promotion and trailer, where Bambi herself claimed to be a former Dallas cowgirl.
Hi, my name is Bambi Woods, and it's interesting that I was chosen for this part in this movie because in real life I was a Dallas cowgirl.
Then there was the marketing of the movie. Since this was way before VCRs were popular, pornos were shown in special theaters that were meant for adults. And just like in the trailer, Bambi Woods was promoted as an ex-Dallas cheerleader. Not only that, but in the film at the ending, the outfit that Bambi is wearing during her sex scene resembled that of the actual Dallas cheerleading squad that year in 1978. So it was no big surprise that once the Dallas franchise caught whiff of this whole entire movie, they slapped their ass with a lawsuit. Thing was though, that was exactly what Jim Clark was going for.
The basic idea in those days was to get people to sue you. I mean, if you can get them to sue you, then that's free publicity, and the longer you could keep that running, the more attention the film got and the more money you made.
Not only did the film get hit with a lawsuit, but also at the time, the feds were building up a case against the film's financial backer, Mickey Zapparano, for illegal activities. Unfortunately, on Valentine's Day of 1980, he died of a heart attack while fleeing from them. So with the lawsuit and the death of Mickey Zapparano attached to it, Debbie Does Dallas gained a ton of popularity.
The Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders were huge at that point. I mean, they were like the biggest thing. So this is the, oh, look, there's Eric. That's one of the main reasons this was such a big hit, because it traded in on that Dallas name. It was just a brilliant move.
Remember, the Dallas cheerleaders were totally sold on sex. Wasn't that the first? That was sold on sex. You didn't see an ugly fat girl being a Dallas cheerleader. Come on. Sex is the primary seller of anything in the entertainment industry.
This created a chain of events which did nothing but propel the notoriety and the huge popularity of this minuscule little film that by all means should have fizzled away.
But what really sets its popularity into legendary mode came in the mid-1980s, cause by that time, Bambi Woods had disappeared. Many rumors surrounded Bambi Woods' disappearance. Some of them said that she was dancing in certain spots, such as the melody in the interview that we saw earlier, while others led to claiming that she started doing drugs and getting into prostituting, which eventually led to her supposed dying of a drug overdose in 1986. Her drug OD rumor lasted until the mid-1990s, when Bob Burge, going on a tip that Bambi was still alive and going by her supposed real name, Barbara Woodson, he hired a PI to try to track her down, and the closest he got was talking to her parents on the phone, where they claimed that she was living a happy life away from anything Bambi Woods related. Years later in 2007, someone claiming to be Bambi came forward in an email saying the same thing, as well as setting the record straight about the documentary called Debbie Does Dallas Uncovered, which came out in 2005. But still to this day, nobody knows the entire truth of what happened to Bambi Woods, or if she's still alive today. Now, it is a strong possibility that she is alive, and if that's true, she would be 65 years old. But once again, we don't know. But we do know one thing is for certain. Debbie Does Dallas is an all-time classic. Not just because of the controversy, but I will admit, had it not been for the controversies, this movie probably would have flew under the radar. Because when you really sit up there and you watch the content and things like that, it's really a meh, you know. It's a meh kind of, you know, like thing right there. You know, like, sorry for the little stammering. Especially when it came to like the last scene. And of course, you can chalk that up to Bambi Woods being a rookie and things like that, even though she was working with a seasoned veteran like Art Baller. But when you look at that whole entire scene, man, Bambi Woods was truly a cold fish when it came to the whole entire thing, you know. She didn't know what to do. She was like a deer caught up in the headlights. And mainly, you know, like Art Baller, he had to take up the whole entire thing because she was just basically, like I said, she was just basically laying there and just, But like I said, other than that, like I said, had it not been for the controversies, yeah, this would have flew under the radar. But because of what happened and how it happened and when it happened, Debbie Does Dallas is, once again, an all-time classic, even to this day. And I'm grateful for it. Alright, this is Dee Wayne saying, you know, thanks for joining me on this trip right here. Until we see each other again, we's out.
Debbie Goes Dallas was rated today. Debbie Goes Dallas is the pornographic movie that claims to show the inside story of the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. Well, Josh Howell is live at the theater where Debbie Goes Dallas had been playing. Josh, how about it?
Well, Debbie Does Dallas will not be shown tonight because of technical difficulties. It seems that the entire technical staff of the theater has been arrested. You see, Debbie Does Dallas is supposed to be the story of a Dallas cheerleader, but the cheerleaders back in Dallas are not cheering. They say Debbie is not a cheerleader, never has been. They've been fighting in court to close the movie down, and today they did. Debbie does Dallas a disservice. Debbie is less than ladylike. She is also less than a Dallas cheerleader. That's the problem. When Debbie does Dallas, she apparently does it in the suit of a Dallas cheerleader. The Dallas cheerleaders themselves filed suit. A federal judge ordered the Pussycat Cinema to stop showing Debbie doing Dallas. The movie continued to play, and today, federal marshals made their play.
Judge Grisey ordered a civil arrest warrant for anyone having to do with the management of the theater. They were ordered to stop showing the film, and they refused to do it. They failed to stop showing the film as ordered by the judge, so they're in contempt of court.
At this moment, the federal marshals are inside the projection room questioning the manager. The projectionist is under arrest outside. The screen is dark. The theater is empty. Apparently, Debbie has done New York for the last time.
Have you ever been arrested like this before?
No.
Did they tell you why they're arresting you?
Yeah, on cause of contempt on an injunction.
Do you know anything about the injunction?
I wasn't served.
Is this going to be on TV tonight? What time?
The man you are watching is the building superintendent. He's the only member of the staff who was not arrested this afternoon, but tonight the marshals returned and arrested him too. The door is still locked, and apparently Dallas has done Debbie in. Josh Howell, Channel 7 Eyewitness News, live on Broadway.